Lucasfilm's real problem after Kathleen Kennedy isn't what most fans think. It's not about her personally, it's not about internet drama, and it's not even about who's technically in charge at Lucasfilm right now. Because whether you loved her era or hated it, the truth is this: Kathleen Kennedy leaving the spotlight did not solve Star Wars' biggest issue. It only exposed it. For the first time in years, Lucasfilm is being forced to answer a much harder question. Can Star Wars still function as a true theater event, or has it permanently become a streaming franchise? That is the real problem after Kathleen Kennedy. Because in 2026, Lucasfilm isn't just releasing another Star Wars project, they are asking audiences to change their behavior. They're asking people who are trained to wait for Disney Plus to show up in theaters again and treat Star Wars like something special. And if they fail, then it does not matter who runs Lucasfilm next. So in this video, I want to break down what Lucasfilm's actual problem is after Kathleen Kennedy, why the next Star Wars movie matters more than people realize, and why this franchise is standing at a crossroads that it hasn't faced in a long time. Because the truth of Star Wars isn't being decided on social media. It's being decided by whether audiences feel a reason to care again. For a long time, Star Wars was not just a movie franchise, it was an event. You planned your weekend around it, you bought tickets early, you felt like the entire world was watching at the same time. That feeling has been gone for a long time. And it didn't disappear because people stopped loving Star Wars, it disappeared because Star Wars trained its audience to wait. Years of Disney Plus content taught viewers something very specific. You don't need to rush, it'll be here later. That's why the next theater release matters so much. Because if Star Wars Return to Theaters feels like a longer Disney Plus episode, then the audience learns the wrong lesson. They learn that Star Wars is still TV, and TV can't wait. But if it feels like a complete cinematic experience, with real stakes, a clear story, and a reason to be seen on the biggest screen possible, then Star Wars can begin retaining its audience. Not to argue online, but to show up. And if Lucasfilm fails to do that, it won't matter how good the next 10 projects are, because the audience will treat them all as an option. Another major issue facing Star Wars right now is accessibility. Not lore accuracy, not canon depth, but accessibility. Modern Star Wars is deeply interconnected. Characters, events, and emotional payoffs often stretch across multiple shows and eras. For hardcore fans, that's exciting. For casual viewers, it can feel overwhelming. There's a difference between a connected universe and a universe that feels like homework. The original trilogy did not require preparation. You didn't need to know anything before watching. You were invited in. That invitation matters a lot in Star Wars. Because if a theatrical Star Wars movie makes people feel like they're missing context, they disengage. Not because the story is bad, but because they feel excluded. That's the balance Lucasfilm has to solve in the post-Kennedy era. How do you reward longtime fans without alienating everyone else? How do you build mythology without requiring a syllabus? That question matters more than any single character or cameo. Star Wars is no longer one audience, it's many. Some fans want mythic Jedi stories, some want grounded political drama, some want nostalgia, and some want bold, new reinventions of stories. Every new project becomes a symbol, not just a story, but a statement. And because the fan base is fractured, every release is judged not on what it is, but on what people think it represents. That makes creative decision making incredibly difficult, because trying to satisfy everyone usually leads to satisfying no one. The solution isn't chasing approval, the solution is rebuilding trust. And trust only comes from consistency. When audiences believe that Star Wars movies are complete, focused, and worth the theater experience, the noise fades, because people stop arguing about hypotheticals and start reacting to what's actually on screen. There's one problem that rarely gets discussed openly, and that's how Star Wars needs new icons. Not replacements, not nostalgia remixes, new faces, new ships, new villains, new ideas that feel distinctly Star Wars. A franchise doesn't stay culturally relevant by living off legacy forever. It stays alive by creating the next generation of characters people care about. That's why upcoming standalone films matter so much. They aren't just stories, they're tests, they're new theories, and new things to play with. Tests of whether Star Wars can still create something that feels fresh, cinematic, and memorable without leaning entirely on the past. Because merchandise, excitement, and cultural presence all follow the same rule. People rally around what feels new and meaningful. So when people ask what happens after Kathleen Kennedy, the real answer is this: Star Wars is being forced to prove what it is. Is it a streaming franchise with occasional movies? Or is it a cinematic universe that uses streaming as support? The next few years will decide that. If Star Wars commits fully to theatrical storytelling, stories that stand on their own, feel massive, and reward the audience for showing up, then the franchise has a real chance at a revival. But if those movies feel like extensions of streaming content, then audiences will keep doing what they have been taught to do, wait, scroll, and maybe watch it later. So here is the real question. Do you think Star Wars should focus on one tightly connected overarching storyline, or should it return to standalone theatrical sagas that anyone can jump into? And if you're in charge of Lucasfilm for 1 year, what is the first Star Wars movie you would make? Let me know in the comments, because things like this actually matter. We want to know what movies you want to see, what storylines and eras we should follow, or should we start crafting something entirely new?